Now in our recent experience, and you've obviously gone way up to the world level and done extremely well there, a lot of time is spent on getting the rider comfortable, which means ergonomics, and then unique setups per track for suspension, which may be springs, valving. Now for street bikes, what we've seen in the last 5 years alone has brought huge adjustability into most categories of motorcycles, and that levers are adjustable, footrests are adjustable, gear shifters, they're all adjustable. So do you find lots of people actually, when they come to your schools, have done anything in regards to that?
You know, it's probably a question that I don't ask enough as far as what they've actually done, because we're so busy talking about the technical side of riding and things that we kind of probably assume a little bit that people have taken care of that before they get here. What we do find is that as we manipulate their bodies and get them in a better position on the bike, then it's, oh, maybe if I change this around, that's going to help me get in that position. So that's when we usually start getting the tools out to get them to a little bit more comfortable on their bikes.
We're at the Pridmore school here at Chuckwalla. Stephen, this is your bike that you're riding today.
Yep.
And you have some ergonomic issues. So what are the primary issues you're facing right now with the Gixxer?
Biggest thing right now is like my hand and the controls. Like I'm having to keep my wrist cocked so much in order to get the brake lever and then also the clutch going in and out.
So your wrist angle is too severe rather than straight?
Right.
Okay, so what we'll go ahead and do is reset the levers to try and make sure that there's a continuous down angle with your hands. So on every bike we have the option with the brake lever and the clutch lever to position it at an angle. And that's just using the perch itself, not the lever distance from bar to grip. So right now we'll go ahead and loosen the perch so that Stephen can position the brake lever where he wants it for angle in regards to his hand. Okay, Stephen, go ahead and push on that lever to get it exactly where you want it.
Pretty good.
Okay. Now, is that where you usually sit against the tank when you're riding on the track? Because that's a really important component, because that straightens your arm out.
It's about usual right here.
So if we look at Stephen's hand, it's actually a straight line through his wrist, whereas before we had a down angle where the hand was up. So that will create fatigue in the wrist. So you want to try this setting here?
Yep, we'll try that. Pretty much our wrist is cocked the whole time, so it's putting a lot of pressure all right here on my wrist instead of having my arms out like this. Just creating a lot of problems, especially when I get into a turn and having to use the clutch real quick.
The other part of that too is when you do that, you're having to rotate your wrist. If you're here, you've got to rotate your wrist to allow your fingers to come up and over to get the lever as well. See how that's happening? So if you're gripping there going into the corner, that's fine. But then if you have to reach the clutch, you've got to change your hand position, which is changing your balance point on the bike. Plus now you have to do something mid-corner, and that really isn't very acceptable at all. So let's go ahead and loosen up the clutch perch so that we can position this lever where he needs it. Okay. Now do the same thing, mimic you're in the corner and you want your fingers to slide over the lever, not your hand to change position. See how your fingers are still catching it? So let's go a little lower. Now put your hands back on the bar and over. Much easier. See the difference there? Yeah. So given the length of your fingers and what you're looking for out of the bar, hold it there and we'll lock it in place.
A lot better.
Okay, now get your gloves on and let's look at what other issues we may have.
All right, one of the other problems is whenever I'm going to the brake, sometimes I'm hitting it with my knuckles, trying to get it up and over. So I just kind of needed to get it moved out just a little bit in order to get my fingers up and around it.
Now as you can see from the close-up, the front brake lever is adjustable in different positions. So the arrow to the number creates distance away from the bar. If we go to number 2, it's a little further. If we go to number 1, it's a little further. You were on number 3, which is pretty close to the bar. So go ahead, Stephen, grab that. Now is that too big a reach for your fingers to the bar?
Yeah, a little bit too much of a reach, just kind of hitting the edge of my fingers.
Okay, number 2.
It's good.
Okay.
Where do you want to hit your fingers whenever you're reaching for the brake?
That's a personal thing. I prefer it to be on my fingertips themselves, so I have sensitivity. If it's between these knuckles, the second joint, I don't feel like I have the same sensitivity. Different riders require different things. The other part is if you brake with 1, 2, or 3 fingers. A lot of the corners will determine the way you brake, but also you have technique. So how do you brake? 1, 2, or 3 fingers?
I brake with 2 fingers.
Okay, so go ahead, reach for the lever. This finger is in the middle of the finger, right?
Right.
This finger's on the tip. So when you pull the lever, you have 2 levels of sensitivity, a primary and a secondary.
Yep.
This one gives you much more strength in pull because it's here. This one gives you more sensitivity. So when you're braking aggressively, the second finger will be dominant. When you're trail braking, the first finger will assume the dominance because you need the sensitivity.
It's definitely important to get all my controls very comfortable and where I can reach them at, mainly because if anything happens on the track, I want to be prepared if another rider crashes in front of me or, you know, I have a problem myself. I'll know exactly where my brakes are or, you know, I know exactly where everything's at. So if I'm in a panic, you know, I know exactly what to do. Definitely on the street, a lot more things can happen. A car pull out in front of you or, you know, you just never know what could happen. So if you have your controls, your brakes, your gas, you know, where you can shift quickly. It only takes a few minutes to set on the bike and, you know, get all that stuff where it's a lot more comfortable. And, you know, it's just really about safety and it only takes a few minutes. For me, I have problems with my hands falling asleep a lot, so I mess with my handlebars a lot. And recently, I've actually twisted my throttle forward and put my brake down. You know, as you can tell, my wrist here has more flow through it. So, you know, it's just little things like that that if you just sit down and, you know, look at it, you'll realize, oh man, I can't believe it took me so long to think about that. Yeah, and it was an easy fix.
Wrapping up on the ergos, we changed bar position, lever position.
So much better, so much more comfortable. Having the brakes and everything and the levers where I wanted them versus straight out of the crate, it's a big change.
So where did you end up on the brake lever, 1 or 2?
I stayed with 2 because sometimes I would go to 1 finger. And so the tip was right there, and so I could have enough grip with also when I was releasing a little bit of feel whenever I went to 1 finger. 2, it was just pretty much you had a meat of it was there, and then the feel was on the first finger. So 2 felt good. 1 was a little bit too far. It was, you know, I couldn't get a lot of grip in it. But so for me, wise, 2 felt good.
Just amazing how simple a couple things like lever position can drastically change what happens to you on the bike in terms of fatigue. So what else did you do you did something with the rear sets?
Yeah, I moved the rear sets up and back a little bit just to get my legs level with the tank. So whenever I gripped the tank, I wasn't in and out. You know, my leg was even with the fold of the tank.
Okay.
And then also did the lever to a GP shift. So whenever I was getting out of the turns, I didn't have to put my foot under the turn, you know, under the lever to hit it. I could just go ahead and tap it and go from there.
So all your street bikes now are getting rear sets, GP shift, lever adaption.
pretty much.
Get the checkbook out.
Yeah.
Look out.
I mean, if it's easy on the track, it's got to be easier in the street, you know?
Yeah, and the thing about that is too, it's your reaction time on the street that's faster than your reaction time. It has to be because stuff happens so quickly on the street.
Right.
And the problems you were having with catching your knuckle on the brake, just that one tiny thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Car pull out and my knuckle gets stuck or something, I mean.
1/10 of a second is a lot of distance at 70 miles an hour. So
I think that what we have found is that a lot of people are still searching for that feel. They're still searching. They don't really know what everything does on the bike. So when they get somebody like yourself who comes in and says, oh, we can tweak this or tweak that, they jump on it and go, well, that's night and day better. My job, I feel, is to give them the techniques that they can build some consistency. As they build consistency, then they're going to start to go, well, what if I did this and what if I did that? And I can get them to start feeling for more things. And but like you said, with all the adjustabilities and then some of the things that have come on the bikes, traction control and ABS and all, slipper clutches and things, what I don't want people to think is that those are just Band-Aids. You know, to me, those are kind of Band-Aids for bad technique.
Sure.
It's great that they're there, but I want people to continue to work on their technique so that they don't have to rely on that stuff.
Right.